for hospitality industry. And we are going to cover digital marketing for hotels and restaurants, brand communication, content marketing, customer experience management, digital marketing strategy, influencer marketing, social media management applications, and different approaches. So I welcome Dawn Gribble today from UK, and she is the founder and CEO of Virtual Solutions UK. Thank you so much, Dawn, for joining me in. How are you today?
It's an absolute pleasure to be part of this webcast. For those of you that don't know, I tend to sort of split my time between the UAE and the UK, working with hotels and restaurants in both countries. So it's an absolute pleasure to be with you. And yes, it's a good day. It's not raining here for a change in the UK.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Don, uh, tell us about that. What is digital marketing? And we are hearing a lot of things about digital marketing and why it is important for hotels and restaurants.
So I think the main thing to remember is that this device is actually the remote control of our lives. It's where we turn to find information, to share experiences with our friends. And it's one of the main ways that we find where we want to stay and where we want to eat. So I think it's really important for hotels and restaurants to remember that customer experience doesn't begin when the person visits your venue. Customer experience begins when they pick up the phone. And digital plays a key part in every stage of the buyer's journey, whether that's finding somewhere to eat. So we might go and use Google to search for somewhere. More often than not, though, we'll use social media, but we'll use our private channels, our private networks, and we'll ask our friends for recommendations. Once we have that information, the next stage is obviously comparing where we want to eat or where we want to stay. So it's a case of information gathering, whether that's through a website, through review sites, through social media again. And these all play key parts. Of course, once we've made the decision of where we're going to eat or where we're going to stay, we then need to find it. So Google Maps, for example, integrated into your marketing strategy will help people find your venue. For people staying at hotels or for people eating at restaurants, we then use digital while we're eating or while we're staying. You know, we'll be uploading pictures of the view or the dishes or where we are with our friends. And then, of course, afterwards, it's now common for us to leave reviews for other people to share. So again, this could be on TripAdvisor. In the UAE, it could be on Zomato if you're a restaurant. And it's really important to keep a hold of what's going on with your reviews, because Google now aggregates all of the reviews. And this affects your rankings in the search engines too, which we'll touch on a little bit shortly. And then, of course, once you've been a customer of somewhere, you want to re-engage that customer. So again, whether that's through retargeting ads or through email offers or SMS text messages, we then want that customer coming back. So the entire ecosystem is driven by digital at every single stage.
Okay, wonderful. So the how hotels and restaurants can identify the suitability of these platforms, the platforms which are digitally market the services or products they are selling.
So to begin with, it really depends on who your customer is. You need to have a very, very clear idea of who your customer is. So, for example, if you're focusing on, let's say, Dubai, for example, we've got lots of people in Dubai that speak various different languages, and Facebook is a terrific platform for that, because you can post in multiple languages without having to be in the same post, and those settings will update depending on which language you've got your mobile set to. So that's really strong. Obviously, you need to look at where your customers go for information. So in the UAE, people will go to, even if you're not selling through Zomato as a restaurant, you should still have a profile there, because people will still want to find your brand there. So the most important platforms, I believe, for hoteliers and for restaurateurs is, number one, own your own website, and it must be mobile friendly. Now, the reason for that is I've seen businesses before, not necessarily in this industry, but it's happened in other industries, where they'll set up on social media and they don't own the platform itself. And if the terms and conditions change and you find yourself no longer being able to be on that platform, then you've lost all of your customers potentially. So,
True.
number one, have your own website. Number two, Google My Business. This has never been more important for restaurants and hotels to have a Google My Business listing. Hotels know that the booking engines and the OTAs, they take a lot of commission, and Google's actually changing the balance there by promoting direct bookings, but a lot of the time is through that Google My Business card that you'll see on the search results.
Mhm.
So Google My Business, your own website. Um, for the UAE, I would recommend certainly Facebook. I know that some operators say, well, we don't get any engagement. I think that's because there's a disconnect between what engagement and the buyer's journey is that people will still check out your Facebook page to get information on your company, whether they like your posts or not. They're still using it as a step to get information. Instagram's obviously huge in the region, and that's a great way of getting the word out about your offerings and what you're doing and showing a bit of behind the scenes through Facebook stories. And Twitter. Now, I know that Twitter isn't necessarily the most popular channel in the UAE for the locals, but in terms of Westerners and certainly the Saudis as well, they absolutely love the channel. So if you're looking to attract tourists, then you should certainly have a presence on Twitter as well. And then finally, the other platform that you should absolutely have claimed is your TripAdvisor listing, because you should be in control of what reviews are coming into you.
All right, wonderful. And why is strategy is important for any hotel or restaurant to market their services digitally?
So, as I mentioned before, first of all, you need to have a good idea of who your customer is, and you need to understand how they're using these platforms. Now, if you're just posting without any strategy, you're not leading that customer through that journey to help them decide that you're the venue that they want to stay at or you're the venue that they want to eat at. So it's really important to understand how people use each different channel, why they're using it, and then how you can create content for each channel. So Facebook is almost like a magazine. This is where you should put your events, your special offers, pictures of the views, the food. For restaurants, you can add menus that are interactive, instead of these bulky PDFs of the past.
Mhm.
And of course, there's now a real push towards ordering and customer service through Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
And in fact, Facebook will be merging its Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger platforms within the next 12 months. So again, it's unifying these communications.
All right.
Twitter, the average life of a tweet is actually about 8 minutes. So if you're just posting once a day, you're not going to get seen. So Twitter again needs a slightly different strategy. You need to make sure that you're posting timely content, that you're getting involved in trending topics, etc. And then, of course, TripAdvisor. This is where people want to share their opinions. Now, whether they're good or bad, you should always be engaged with the people leaving you reviews, because it's a great learning tool. And when they're leaving you positive feedback, it's a fantastic marketing and PR tool as well. But without a strategy and without understanding why you're posting to these channels, you're not going to achieve those results. So you need to have an idea of why you're doing it. You need to have an idea of what you want to achieve. And then, of course, you need to measure those results as well so that you can make any changes as you move forward. And one of the key issues that I've encountered in the UAE is, unfortunately, there does seem to be a tendency for some agencies to buy likes and buy followers and inflate the engagement. And in fact, I was speaking to one client whose internal team were actually um, inflating the figures, and they weren't true.
Mhm.
So when it comes to the strategy, I would urge every CEO, every C-suite to at least undertake like a social media 101, so they can understand what they're looking at as well to see if that's effective.
Okay. And there is a term called SEO. Why it is important, and I mean, what are the key concepts of search engine, marketing, and why it is important?
Okay, so SEO stands for search engine optimization, and this means making your site as popular as possible so that when somebody searches for best restaurant in Dubai or somewhere to stay in Ras Al Khaimah, then you want to make sure that your property is appearing at the top of the list, or at least certainly on the front page of Google. It's important because it can deliver a lot of free traffic for you, meaning that you don't have to pay to have the ads at the top of the pages. And the more popular you are with people, then the more authority you get given, the more visitors. It's a long-term investment. It should be viewed as a marathon and not a sprint. And essentially, there's a few ways to look at it. So the first part of SEO is the technical side, which is making sure that you have the correct keywords. So you want to understand how people are going to search for your property. And in these days, you need to look at voice activated search as well. So a lot of people will be in their cars and like, hey Siri, where can I go and eat tonight? And I've just activated my phone, so I'm just going to turn Siri off a second.
She also wants to join in.
Yes. Or people might be at home. I know that Alexa and Cortana, we've seen huge developments in AI and voice assistants, and people are using them more than ever. Sorry, to find out where they want to go and eat or where they want to stay. So we need to look at the questions people are asking, and how we can create content that answers those questions and then convinces the person that's found that page to take the next step.
Okay, and that SEO actually, it's like you said, it's a marathon, and it has a longer term effect. So, and any business should consider it for a longer term, and keep investing in this, because I think it will help the business to come up in the searches, in the the Google searches, or any other search engine, right?
Absolutely. The main thing to realize is that when you're creating content for a website, when it's SEO optimized, it should be written for a human being to read. And what I mean by that is SEO tactics from about 5 years ago. You would take a keyword that you wanted to rank for, so say best restaurant in Dubai or best hotel in Dubai.
Mm.
And then you would create an article where you just repeated that phrase over and over and over. And while the search engines used to look at that and go, oh, that's what this page is about, people that, human beings reading these articles, they wouldn't make a lot of sense. So it's important to understand that the search engines are now getting more and more like a brain, and sort of using a human think when they look at these articles. So write for your audience to begin with. Yes, it's important to make sure that the technical details in there, but the quality of the content should be high, which means that it should read well, it should be grammatically correct, and it should offer value. Now, what we tend to see is a sort of straight line along until we get to about 6 months, and then we see that traffic really expanding. And so the traffic that you get from SEO after 12 months will be significant compared to the traffic you'd get from 6 months, and then obviously off the charts compared to when you first started beginning. But it builds your authority over time, and it means that people see you as being trustworthy.
Okay, and after having discussed all these points, I think the management or the teams, they have to analyze what is the impact, or particularly the ROI of these all investments and initiatives. So here comes the digital analytics part of it, that how to analyze and what are digital analytics and how it can be understood for calculating the ROI, and I mean reinvesting in this these initiatives.
Absolutely. Well, funnily enough, we've just been working on a white paper at the moment about ROI, which I'll be happy to share with all your watchers as well
Wonderful.
for free afterwards.
Why not?
And there's different ways to calculate the ROI. So we need to look at what are your objectives. So if your objective is brand awareness and market share, then you might look at things as reach, engagement, impressions, so that you can understand how many more people are aware of you. Of course, if your goal is sales, then you want to see how many people are booking through the different channels. So you want to compare the direct bookings that you're getting on your website versus the bookings that you might be getting on an OTA. And then when you look at the analytics, it's important to understand where people are referring from. So if they're coming from social media to your website and making a booking, then you should be investing more in social media. If you're using pay-per-click, for example, then you will be bidding on different keywords to get people to click through. So again, you need to look at those keywords and decide whether or not some of them might not be getting you any results. So you don't want to be spending money on keywords that aren't making you anything. So there are a number of different suites, but Google Analytics is a fantastic tool for anybody that wants to do this themselves. And there are training sessions on how to use this too. For the actual website, I would be looking at bounce rate, which means the number of people that come into your website. If they found that they're not looking for the information, they'll leave quite quickly. So you need to have a look at how long people are spending on that page and then analyze that page. Does it have the information that they were looking for? Does it have a call to action to encourage people to the next step? Or is it a case of when you get there, there's so many pop-ups and all different discounts and things that you think, no, that's too much, and you just leave. And I've certainly seen this with some of the restaurant sites in the region, where there is this culture, and it does drive me mad because you're devaluing your brand, people, if you're always offering discounts.
Good point.
Is when you go to a restaurant website, for example, and you'll get 20% off if you order directly, 50% off eating in-house, and you've got all these messages, and it's like, I just want to find out a little bit more about your burger, actually, but you can't get to that page because there's too much going on. So this is where the analytics come through. They help us understand how people are using the websites. So analytics are a great way of seeing the data of where people are coming from, how long they've spent on the pages, which pages they go to next. But I'd also recommend looking at a heat map for a website as well. So this allows you to see which sections of the page people are looking at, where they've clicked, and then you can get an idea of if you've got your important bit of information at the bottom of the page, but people aren't scrolling down that far, then you need to know it's time to move that information to the top of the page.
Okay.
So marketing is always about testing.
Yeah, learning, relearning, and then devising the next step accordingly.
Yes.
So these all steps, they all need a plan. So I'm sure there must be a digital marketing plan available for the businesses to take care of. So how, what are the main areas for developing a digital marketing plan, and is there any tool we can use online or?
There's a number of different sites that will give you different tools. HubSpot, for example, has some great content calendars. Google Analytics has the training on how to use their analytical tools. But it is very much one of these disciplines that does take quite a bit of research and practical testing to get things right. But the main stages that I would say would be, number one, understand your customer. What is it that they're looking for? How can you make their life better? How can you give them an experience that's going to connect with them emotionally?
Okay.
What are your competitors doing in the market? You know, they might be doing some things really well. They might be doing some things poorly. There might be gaps in what they're doing where you can position yourself differently. And particularly in the UAE with so many hotels and so many restaurants, paying attention to these initial steps is really vitally important. I have seen businesses that are like, right, I'll open a restaurant, it's easy.
Mhm.
And then they don't understand about delivery zones or the branding or the offers that they're giving or the pricing. So you need to sort of suss this out beforehand. Obviously, you'll make changes as you go through. So understand the customer, understand your competitors, and what makes you different. So then you need to define your brand. What do you look like? How do you sound like? How do you engage with people? What's going to make your brand stand out from the rest? if you're a burger restaurant, for example, there's plenty of other burger restaurants, but maybe you do the best homemade sauce in the entire UAE, and so that's something that you should really then take and promote, because that's your unique selling point. Once you've identified those areas, it's time to start setting some goals. So if you need a certain amount of sales or direct bookings to your website, for example, if you're a hotel, then you need to calculate how many visitors you need to attract to the website to get that number of bookings. So it's time to add some figures to the mix. And your goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based, which stands for SMART. And if you look up SMART goals, then you'll find the framework for this.
Okay.
So once you have the plan of who you're selling to, what you want to achieve, it's now time to look at the tactics. So will we use paid advertising? Will we use social media? Will we use SEO? And then you can plan from there. I always make a point in my personal job to check analytics every single day, because I want to know if a new website's linking to some of my clients. I want to know if they've been mentioned by an influencer or mentioned in the press. And sometimes, unfortunately, negative things happen as well. So it's really important to keep on top of your reputation that way too. So every day I check mentions of the clients that I work with. I have alerts set up on Google Alerts and through Twitter to see what people are saying. I always keep an eye on what's trending in the region. So, for example, there's always spikes at the middle of January for people looking for restaurants in Dubai, because they're starting to think about where to go to Valentine's Day. And then there's another spike about a day before, because we all know it's lastminute.com. But there are people that do actually start planning a little bit earlier for these things. So it's important to understand, again, the buyer journey here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dawn. I think it is a very insightful discussion, and we will come again with another episode with a different topic in the coming time. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful day. Take
Thank
care.
you so much. You too.